Cheers, I do buckaroos. How the heck are you? I am Tom, the beer whisperer and the whiskey whisperer, all at the same time. Somehow I pull it off. Anyway, cheers, man. So I've got a nice 2-ounce pour in my Woodford Reserve glass of this Tomstown Double Oak Bourbon. Picked this up in Kansas City a couple months ago. Got a little bit left, man. I opened it a couple weeks ago, but then I put it away. And I haven't touched it, and I wanted to pop it on Thanksgiving, and here we are. As I get ready to start our Thanksgiving pies, I'd finish a beer, have a little whiskey. Let me put that down for a second and show you the beer. Well, it is this one, man. It is this great, big, beautiful Imperial Stout from, I want to say IPA, Imperial Stout from Bourbon Chestnut. Let me reposition there. Let me show you how beautiful that pours, though. That's gorgeous, right? Tell me that ain't pretty. A 9%, 50 IBUs. It is absolutely gorgeous. A lot of big roasted malt on the nose, along with a lot of chocolate nose, baking cocoa to be more precise. You might find just hints of coffee on the outside, but just a little bit. But for me, it's that roasted barley that really comes to the surface. Got a fake fireplace on the TV where they're playing some canned Christmas music, and it's put my wife to sleep. It is relaxful. Anyway, I digress. Tomstown Double Oak. This is an interesting whiskey. You pull that bottle up here. See if I can read this with the light that we have. I have trouble reading gold lettering on bottles. I don't know why, but it just the way it reflects with my bifocals, I'm struggling with it. Mercy, I'm trying to read that and I can't get my eyes to focus in. Anyway, it's Double Oak. Let's just... Can't get my eyes to work, man. I need somebody to read this for me. Anyway, use a combination of French and American oak staves. What that does for you is a French oak, in my opinion, tends to impart more vanilla notes. Any oak will give you some vanilla notes, but in my opinion, French oak will give you more vanilla notes. Whereas American oak, especially Missouri white oak, will give you more spice notes. So the combination of the two is very interesting. What this gives you is a very full-bodied whiskey that is just aromatic and flavorful. Here I've got exactly 2 ounces neat in my Woodford Reserve glass. I've been drinking out of my Tomstown Rocks glass, but I thought I'd give it the Glencairn treatment to see how that would focus the nose. There's a lot of vanilla on the nose, but there's just an incredible amount of spice going on. I interpret it as a combination of cinnamon. I get cinnamon, allspice, clove, nutmeg. You might find some ginger in there now that I'm really taking a good look at it here. Feel a little white pepper as well. See what I did there? Got a little pretentious on you. See what I did right there? Anyway, let me take a drink. I like the combination of a great big Imperial Stout like this with a bourbon or a whiskey. If I'm having an FES, I really like to pair it with an Irish whiskey. But whatever works for you. I just like the combination. For me, they play off of each other. One doesn't necessarily cancel the other out. The whiskey, in my opinion, brings the flavors up of the stout and vice versa. The more I've let this warm up, so I got this bottle out, let it sit for about 10 minutes, then I poured it to take a picture, and then I did a video with just the beer. Then I dinked around a little more and got the video ready for this one here. So it's probably been sitting out about 30 minutes as I do this particular video. And as I've done that, I can really feel how both the aromas and the flavors have rounded out. Whereas early on, when it was colder, the flavors and aromas are sharper. As it warms up, they sort of meld together more. They become more cohesive.
Oh, I agree.
Whereas the chocolate notes were always there, they really bring everything else together. And I'm really feeling more sweetness now in the beer than I was before. But one thing I struggled with some Imperial Stouts is they have a lingering sweetness on the back end. This one does not do that. It almost feels like somewhere between an Imperial Stout and a big FES.
You don't have to spell it.
Because it finishes drier than a typical Imperial Stout. It finishes more like an FES, but the body really isn't that more of an Imperial Stout. That's my interpretation anyways. And I'm going to set that down, and I've got that chocolate lingering on my palate, see? I want to take a drink of this great, big, beautiful whiskey. Tom's Stout Distillery up in Kansas City. I really would have loved to spend more time there, but I really didn't need to. From a drinking standpoint, anyway. I had one cocktail there, and to be honest with you, I kind of nursed it over just under an hour, I suppose. Because I thought about having 2 cocktails, but I really didn't need 2 cocktails because we were doing some other things. That cocktail he made me was freaking gorgeous. It was probably the best Manhattan that I've ever had a bartender make for me. It used the Tom's Stout Pendergast Gold Royal Bourbon. Although I've made it here at the half season, this double oaked, and it's absolutely beautiful that way. One thing I really love about this whiskey is the texture, the mouthfeel. It's very pleasant. It feels very, very, very silky. There's a lot of sweetness going on here, I gotta tell you. Whiskey drinkers, especially Scotch drinkers, get hung up a lot on price and age. But bourbon really is a whole other animal. I've had bourbons at $40 that were better than $80 to $100 bourbons. I've had bourbons aged 4 to 6 years that were better than bourbons aged 10 to 12. You really got to be careful. You know, sometimes marketing is brilliant, right? Someone will try to get more for a whiskey, and you automatically look at that price point and you think, oh, it must be better. And it isn't always the case. This Thompstown Double Oak retails for right around 40. I've seen it for a hair under. I've seen it for a hair over. And quite frankly, at a $40 price point, I don't think there's a better bourbon to be had on the market. And if I were doing a blind taste test, I would put it up against bourbons at twice the price. I think it's that good. And part of that is what I mentioned earlier, the mouthfeel, the texture. I get a lot of sweetness up front, like a very deep brown sugar molasses feel. You might feel some honey in there as well. It is very sweet initially, and then as that sweetness fades, it falls into just a whole lot of spice, and you get that spice and that oak at the end. But what runs through it from top to bottom is vanilla. You really feel that vanilla in a great big way. You also might feel some fruit notes. You might feel some raisin. You might feel some date. Again, it depends on what you're familiar with, right? I've had people say, well, you might taste this, you might taste that. But if I've never had that, I'm not going to interpret it. Tom, you might get persimmons. Well, I've never ate a frickin' persimmon, so I'm not going to feel it that way. That's why I never tell anybody they're wrong. You can only taste what you know. I've had people tell me, well, I get too precise on spice notes, and they're probably right, but because I'm very familiar with spices, I use a lot of spices, those are things I feel like I can decipher. Comes to fruit notes, not so much. but I feel like I get inklings of certain things, and that's what I'm able to interpret. But I love how this whiskey feels oaky dry. That's one thing I noticed when I had that Manhattan I thought was gorgeous, is that the finish is as decadent and initially sweet as that Manhattan started out to be, it finished as equally dry and oaky. And that's what I loved about it. And it just finished off with that oak. I'm going to set that down for a second and go back to this beer here. You see what we're doing here? We're tag teaming, man. Anyway. My wife really wants me to finish this up so we can move on to coffee and pie, but pie and noodles. Want some pie and noodles? Anyway, so you'd have to have seen Santa Claus too to understand the pie and noodles reference. But there you go.
Yeah, well.
Actually, she's mostly fed up with the music of this particular fireplace video. So I've been going through various fireplace videos. And I happen to find this one with some Christmas music, but I must admit it is a bit tedious. anyway, I digress. So I probably shouldn't run this video much longer than I've already have, because I've got a long ways. Anyway, Thompstown Double Oak Bourbon. Yeah, for me it's brilliant. But other than that, when I visited Thompstown Distillery, it was a perfect visit from top to bottom. I mean, they were friendly as I walked in. They were knowledgeable and maybe a tad pretentious, but they were still friendly and didn't feel. I've been to places where you kind of get the feeling that they're put off by you asking questions. And the bartender there at Thompstown was just absolutely brilliant. Even though the guy was crazy busy, he was talking to people at the bar and answering questions for myself and other people as he was mixing drinks. The guy was that good. And when I asked about certain things, he asked about what I typically drink. So I asked about the distiller's flight, and that was after I told him the spirits I'm most interested in. He kind of steered me in a different direction because he knew I wasn't as much into the gin and the vodka. And he gave me a couple samples of the bourbon because he knew that's what I was interested in. And that's why I spent money in there, and that's why I will go back there, and that's why I'm telling everybody I know that that's a place to visit. So there you go. I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer. Whiskey evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, pervert wisdom man. I picked the beer back up. I'm also Tom the Beer Whisperer, by golly. Change hats. I'm also Tom the Beer Whisperer. Beer evangelist, prolific beer drinker, pervert wisdom man. Cheese biscuits, that's good. All around good guy. Cheers, y'all. I usually knock the beer and the whiskey back at the end of the video, but these products are too good to just slam. They gotta be enjoyed. So anyway, all around good guy. Cheers.